The auction nobody cared about. The twin suns burned hot over the alien slave market of Garshok Prime. Creatures from dozens of planets shouted, haggled, and bargained for slaves of every kind. The smell of dust, metal, and sweat filled the air. Large cages lined the sand-covered street, each one holding someone for sale. Strong warriors, rare engineers, strange entertainers. But one cage sat in silence. Inside that forgotten cage was a thin, alien woman. Her skin was soft purple, her arms marked with faded silver lines. She had glowing blue eyes that stared at the ground, and her body was still like she had given up long ago. A rusted sign was tied to her cage. Broken, useless, sold as is. No one even looked at her. She was trash, not even worth bidding. On to the auctioneer. A loud green-scaled creature with 6 arms shouted at the top of his lungs. 10 credits for this brute. He broke 3 chains just last week. The crowd laughed and cheered. Sales went fast. But still that small cage stayed quiet. Far away, walking down the row, came a human. His name was Jack, just a traveler, a drifter who had seen too many planets and trusted too few people. He wore a long brown coat, dusty boots, and carried only a small pack. His eyes moved slowly from cage to cage until they stopped at hers. Jack stood there staring at the silent woman. "What's wrong with her?" Jack asked. The auctioneer rolled his eyes. "That one? Bah! She's nothing. Doesn't speak, doesn't eat much, never fights. Just sits there and stares. Waste of space." Jack looked again. Her eyes. They weren't dead. They were watching. Waiting. Thinking. "I'll take her," Jack said. The auctioneer blinked. "What?" "I said I'll take her." The crowd nearby chuckled. A few aliens laughed out loud. "You serious, human? She's not worth 1 credit. I'll throw her in for free if you take the cage too." Jack stepped forward and unlocked the cage with a small device from his belt. The woman didn't move. She just looked up slowly, her glowing blue eyes meeting his. "Come on," Jack said, soft but firm. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, she stepped out. Her walk was weak, but her balance was perfect, like someone trained in movement, but pretending to be weak. Jack noticed it, but he didn't say a word. As they walked away, the auctioneer called out, "You'll regret that, human. That thing's cursed." Jack didn't answer. He just kept walking, the strange alien woman walking behind him silently like a shadow. That night, they camped far outside the city under the stars. Jack gave her food. She didn't touch it at first. Then she smelled it, nodded, and ate slowly. Not like a beast, but like someone who hadn't eaten in days. "You got a name?" Jack asked. She didn't answer. "You understand me?" Still no reply. Jack sighed and leaned back against a rock. "Fine. Don't talk. But I saw something in you back there. You're not broken. You're hiding something." The woman looked at him for a long time. Then, in a whisper too soft to hear clearly, she said something in a strange, ancient language. Jack frowned. What was that? No answer. He turned to look at her again, and saw her staring at the stars. Not just looking, but studying them like someone searching for something far away. That's when Jack realized. She wasn't just some poor soul sold into slavery. She was something else. Something deeper. He looked back at the stars, too. And, for the first time in a long time, he felt something strange in his gut. Destiny. Back at the market, the auctioneer cleaned up for the night. One of his workers asked, "Why was that girl in a cage anyway? She never caused any trouble." The auctioneer shrugged. "Came in on a bounty ship. No ID, no records, just a weird symbol on her back. Some old language no one could read. Thought she'd fetch a price, but no one wanted her. She's just strange." The worker paused. "You ever wonder what she really is?" The auctioneer lit a cigar and laughed. "Nope. She's gone now. Some fool took her off my hands. Good riddance." He turned away. But in the corner of the empty cage where the woman once sat, the faded symbol on the wall pulsed faintly. A shape, like a sun with wings. Something ancient, something lost, and something just awakened. The morning sun rose over the desert, casting long shadows over the dry rocks. Jack walked ahead, his boots crunching the sand. Behind him, the alien woman followed, silent and barefoot, her eyes hidden by her long silver hair. They didn't speak. Jack wasn't sure if she understood him, or if she simply didn't care. But he could feel it. This girl wasn't ordinary. Something about her silence felt heavy, like a dam ready to break. They reached Jack's camp just before noon. It was a small place, hidden between cliffs, a solar tent, 2 broken drones, and a rusty water tank. Not much, but it was home. "Make yourself comfortable," Jack said, pointing to a soft mat in the shade. She didn't sit. Instead, her eyes scanned everything. Every wire, every panel, every blinking light on Jack's old machines. Jack noticed and raised an eyebrow. "You like tech?" No answer. Jack sighed and began fixing one of his broken drones. Its left wing was fried, and its power core was missing. He dug through his tools. Then something strange happened. The alien woman stepped forward, knelt beside him, and slowly reached into his toolbox. Her long fingers moved with precision, as if she had done this 1,000 times before. She picked out a microcircuit board, a rare connector chip, and 2 fine wires. Jack didn't stop her. He just watched. She leaned forward and, in perfect silence, began connecting the parts, faster and cleaner than he ever could. Within minutes, the broken drone lit up. Its core hummed softly. Jack blinked. "That should not be possible," he muttered. "You know Earth tech?" She looked at him, expression calm, and handed him the fixed drone. "Who are you?" Jack asked again. Still no answer. But this time she tilted her head and said one word. "Sinara." It wasn't her name. It was something else. A word filled with power. Jack froze. That word rang in his memory. He had seen it once, long ago, in an old book of galactic myths. Sinara, a lost race, keepers of forgotten knowledge, believed extinct after the last stellar war. He stared at her, heart pounding. You can't be." She turned away and began to clean the dust from the drone's wings like it was nothing, but her glowing eyes gave her away. She knew exactly what she was doing. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He sat by the fire, turning the word Sinara over in his mind. Could it be real? Could she be one of them? He looked over at her. She sat still, staring at the stars again, arms around her knees like a lonely child. But Jack could feel it now. Beneath her quiet face was a mind racing faster than any machine. He stood and walked over to her. "Why me?" he asked softly. "Why did you let me take you from that cage?" For a moment she didn't reply. Then she looked up. "Because you asked," she said quietly. Jack blinked. Her voice was soft but clear now. No accent. No stutter. "You didn't order me, you didn't point and buy, you asked." Jack knelt beside her. "You were hiding, weren't you, acting weak?" She nodded slowly. "Why?" Her eyes met his. "Because I was being hunted." Suddenly a sound echoed across the canyon, a high-pitched whirring. Jack jumped up, grabbing his weapon. The girl stood too, eyes locked on the dark sky. A small drone flew overhead, scanning. Jack aimed. "Bounty scanner, we need to move." The woman didn't move. Instead, she raised her hand slowly, fingers twitching, and the drone sparked and fell from the sky. Jack stared at her in shock. "You used energy?" She looked at him with glowing eyes. "I didn't want to. But if they've found me, more will come." Jack felt the weight of the moment settle in. He hadn't just saved a lost girl. He had found a key to something powerful, to something ancient, and now they were both part of it. The desert was quiet, but Jack had learned long ago. Silence could be more dangerous than noise. He slept lightly that night, one hand near his blaster, the other under his head. The alien woman, now known as Sanara, sat just outside the tent, watching the stars like she always did. She didn't sleep. She didn't move much. She only observed, as if waiting for something. At midnight, the silence broke. A sharp metallic click came from the shadows. Then another. Jack's eyes flew open. He didn't need to see them to know what that sound meant. Raiders, desert scavengers, killers. They never knocked. He rolled over and grabbed his blaster, but it was already too late. The camp's alarm screamed just once before it was shot down. Jack crawled low to the edge of the tent, peeking out. Shapes moved in the dark, at least 5. Big ones, heavy weapons. They weren't just here to steal tech. They were here for her. Jack spun to where Sanara had been sitting, but she was gone. "Sanara?" he whispered sharply. No reply. Then came the shout. "Bring out the girl, human." A deep alien voice called from the dark. "We know she's with you. Sell her to us and maybe we won't burn your lungs from your chest." Jack's jaw tightened. He crouched low, heart pounding. He hadn't even asked her what kind of trouble she was in, and now it had found him. He didn't plan to be a hero. He just didn't like bullies. He burst from the tent, gun raised, blasting one raider square in the chest. The alien flew backward into the sand, shrieking. That's when the others fired back. Red plasma bolts zipped through the night. Jack dove, behind a rock, ducking the heat. His weapon hummed low on power. He was outnumbered, outgunned. This was suicide. Just as he braced for another shot, a bright blue light flashed behind the raiders. One of them screamed. Another dropped to the ground, his weapon crushed, his arm bent in the wrong direction. Jack peeked out and froze. It was her. Sanara wasn't running. She was walking calmly through the crossfire, and she was glowing. A soft blue light flowed across her skin, rising from the strange silver lines Jack had once thought were scars. Her hair floated as if underwater. Her eyes burned like twin stars. One raider fired at her. The bolt struck, but didn't burn. It bounced off a shimmering field that pulsed around her. Sanara raised her hand. With a low hum, energy surged from her palm like liquid lightning. It arced out, hitting the attacker's gun. It exploded in his hands. The others tried to run, but she was already there. Faster than a human could blink, one by one she dropped them. Not killing, but disabling with precision. Jack had never seen anything like it. He stepped out slowly, stunned. Sanara turned, her glow fading slightly, her chest rising and falling with deep breaths. "You're not just an alien girl," Jack whispered. She looked at him and said, "I was a weapon, a protector, then a prisoner. Now, I am something else." The last injured raider tried to crawl away, groaning in the sand. Sanara walked toward him. Her hand glowed again. Jack stepped forward quickly. "Wait," she paused. "He's down. It's over." She stared at the raider for a moment, then slowly lowered her hand. Jack helped tie the alien with a cord. The rest were either unconscious or fleeing into the dark. They sat by the fire, the silence returning again, this time full of tension. Jack finally spoke. "That wasn't luck. That wasn't self-defense. That was trained, military, special ops level control." Sanara didn't look at him. "My people were born for one purpose, protect ancient knowledge. But when the wars came, many turned us into tools. You were captured? I was betrayed by my own, sold by those who feared me. They put me in that cage so I would be forgotten." Jack shook his head slowly. "But why let me find you?" She looked at him now, eyes serious. "Because you're different. You didn't want power. You offered kindness. That is the true key." Jack blinked. "Key? To what?" She looked up at the stars again. "To what comes next." The morning after the attack was quiet. Too quiet. The desert wind had buried the signs of battle in soft waves of sand, but Jack's mind was storming. He sat near the half-burned fire, staring at the girl across from him. Sinara sat perfectly still as if meditating. A strange calm surrounded her. But Jack wasn't calm. He had watched her do things no one should be able to do. She wasn't a normal alien. She wasn't even a normal warrior. She was something else. And Jack needed answers. "You're not going to tell me the truth, are you?" Jack finally said, his voice low. Sinara slowly opened her glowing blue eyes. "You are not ready for all of it. Try me." She tilted her head, studying him, not just his face but his soul, like she was measuring more than his words. "You think I saved you last night," she said. "But you saved me long before that. You saw value in what others threw away. That means more than you know." Jack folded his arms. "I didn't save you because I thought you were special. I just didn't like seeing someone locked in a cage." "Exactly," she whispered. Jack frowned. "What are you?" There was a long silence. Then she pulled back the collar of her shirt. Underneath, etched into her skin, not tattooed, not burned, was a glowing pattern, like a circuit board made of light. It moved, pulsing slowly, as if alive. Jack leaned closer. "That's not natural." "No," she said. "It's ancient. This was made before most species had ships. Before your Earth had cities." Jack's breath caught. "You're part machine? Not machine? Not flesh? A fusion. I was born this way, genetically shaped by the Sinari code. My body is a map, a lock, and a weapon." "A lock?" Jack repeated. "What does it unlock?" She looked up toward the sky. "A vault. A power left behind by the ancients. Only a Sinara can find it, but only a human can open it." Jack blinked. "A human? Me?" Sinara nodded. "The ancients built many vaults before they vanished, but they feared what might come after them. So they created guardians, us, to keep their secrets hidden. They believed one day a species would rise, not through war, but through empathy. A race that chooses to help the weak, that would be the true test." Jack gave a bitter laugh. "You think humans are that race? We're not exactly saints." "No, you're not," she said softly. "But you chose me, not because I was strong, not because I was valuable, but because I was forgotten." Jack sat back, quiet now. He thought of the wars humans had fought, the greed of corporations, the lies of leaders, but he also thought of how a random man like him, a wandering drifter with nothing to gain, had still felt the need to help a stranger. Maybe that meant something. Maybe it meant everything. "I need to show you something," Sinara said suddenly. She stood and walked to the old drone she had repaired days ago. Her hands moved over it, not fixing it, but changing it. Rearranging parts, replacing wires. She inserted a crystal from her bag into its side. The drone lit up and began to project a hologram, a galaxy map, but not one Jack had ever seen. The stars spun until it locked on a barren planet, lost in the middle of a forgotten sector. A red dot blinked deep beneath its surface. "What is that?" "The vault," she said. "It's buried under the sands. My body carries the coordinates, but only a human can activate the gate." Jack turned to her slowly. "You're saying you were waiting for someone like me?" She nodded. "I had no name, no freedom, but I had a mission. Now I have a partner." Jack stood and looked at the stars above. He had never wanted to be part of something big. He just wanted peace, quiet, and maybe a drink at the end of the day. But now, he was holding a map to a secret that could change the galaxy. And the key wasn't in his hands, it was in his choices. Far above them, hidden in orbit, a satellite blinked to life. A distant empire had received the alert. A signal had activated. From a Sinari source, a signal thought extinct for centuries, and now they were coming. The night sky above the desert had never looked so dangerous. From a distance, it was beautiful, full of stars, quiet, peaceful. But Jack knew better now. Somewhere up there, ships were moving. Not just raiders or smugglers, something far worse. Something official. Jack packed quickly, The moment Sinara activated the old drone and shared the vault's location, everything changed. They were no longer running from scavengers. Now they were being hunted by empires. Sinara stood at the edge of the rocky camp, her hair glowing faintly under the moons. She was watching the stars, counting them like time bombs. They received the signal, she said without turning. They'll come fast, faster than we can run. Jack threw his last energy cell into his bag and slung it over his shoulder. Then we don't run. She looked at him. We hit the vault before they hit us. They took Jack's desert crawler, a noisy, half-broken hovercraft with cracked solar wings and a whining engine. It wasn't pretty, but it moved. Fast enough. For now. The coordinates led them to a dead zone in the desert, a place no one visited. Jack had been out here once before and remembered why he never came back. Nothing grew. Not even bugs. The sand was dry, flat, lifeless, too perfect. They parked near a jagged rock wall. The drone beeped. This is it, Jack said, frowning. Looks like solid rock. Only to the uninvited, Sinara said. She stepped forward and placed her glowing hand on the wall. A pulse of energy traveled across the surface. Lines lit, up ancient symbols older than any known language. The ground trembled. With a deep grinding noise, part of the rock slid open. A hidden entrance. Inside was cold, dark, and silent. The walls were smooth metal, not stone. They were inside something not built, but grown, with forgotten technology. Jack's boots echoed on the floor. Sinara moved ahead, guiding the way as lights flickered to life along the path. Each light hummed in response to her presence, like the vault recognized her. At the end of a long hallway stood a large door, black and silver. No handles, no buttons, only a single panel. It glowed faintly as Jack stepped close. It wants your touch, Sinara said. Only human DNA can open it. Jack raised his hand, hesitating. What happens if I'm not the right kind of human? Sinara gave a soft smile. You already proved you are. He pressed his palm to the panel. A blast of blue light filled the room. The door opened. Inside was a massive chamber, filled with floating structures, holograms, and pulsing machines, quiet but alive. At the center was a circular platform with a tall crystal tower in the middle. Sinara stepped toward it. This is the source core, she whispered. It holds knowledge, power, a star-forging engine buried in the sand. Jack looked around, stunned. This could change everything. She nodded. But not everyone wants change. Some want control. As if on cue, the walls shook. Violently. An explosion outside. Jack ran back down the hall, peeking through the entrance slit. A sleek black ship hovered above the desert. Soldiers in dark armor dropped to the sand. No raiders this time. These were royal hunters. The Empire of Varnak Sinara appeared beside him. They tracked the activation signal. Jack grabbed his weapon. Can they enter? Not without me, she said. Or you. So they'll try to take us alive. Not gently. The battle began fast. The first two soldiers entered with energy blades. Jack fired, taking one down. Sinara moved like lightning, her body glowing again, disarming the second with a single spinning strike. More followed. Blasts shook the hallway. Ancient walls cracked. Jack was sweating, heart racing, firing every shot he had. Then, behind them, the crystal tower began to glow. A soft voice echoed through the vault. Not human, not alien, something older. Guardian recognized. Human partner accepted, system awakening. Sinara turned to Jack, eyes wide. You triggered it. The ground shook as massive machines began to rise from the floor. They're powering up, she whispered. The vault is choosing us. Outside, the commander of the Varnak troops stepped out of the dropship. His eyes narrowed at the ancient structure as it lit up from within. Too late, he growled. He tapped his comm. Prepare for full assault, no survivors. Inside, Jack loaded his final charge. We're surrounded, no way out. But Sinara shook her head. There's always a way out. She touched the tower and whispered something in the old language. The crystal glowed, then shattered into 1,000 lights. A portal opened. "Come with me," she said. "We're not just running anymore. We're going to fight back." The world around them dissolved into light. Jack felt like he was falling, but upward. No floor, no walls, only a swirl of glowing energy as the portal closed behind him and Sonara. Then, with a soft thump, they landed. Solid ground. He blinked and looked around. They were no longer in the desert vault. They were inside something vast. A sky filled with moving machines floated above their heads. Transparent walkways stretched across glowing rivers of light. Giant towers spun silently in the air, and below an ocean of data flowed like liquid glass. It wasn't a building. It was a living system, a machine mind, an ancient intelligence. Jack turned to Sonara, stunned. "Where are we?" Her voice was calm, but even she looked overwhelmed. "This is the heart core, the central memory of the ancients. No one alive has seen this. Until now." Jack spun slowly. Symbols floated through the air like fireflies. Some looked like code, others like pictures from lost worlds. "Why me?" he whispered again. The same soft voice from the vault echoed around them. "Female, peaceful, powerful. Because you are the variable." A glowing figure appeared in front of them. Tall, faceless, made of starlight. The ancients feared control. They built guardians, Sonara's kind, to protect balance. But they left a final key, one no machine could predict. The figure pointed at Jack. "Human free will." Sonara stepped closer. "Then the vault, the machine. It never wanted control?" "No," the voice said. "It waited. For a species not driven by dominance, but by choice." Jack's act of compassion was the trigger. Jack's heart pounded. "So, what now?" The light around them swirled into a galaxy map, different from the one he'd seen before. This one was alive. Planets pulsed like hearts. Star systems blinked like neurons. Then red zones appeared. Flashes of war, slavery, conquest. The voice continued. "If you choose to activate the heart core, it will release lost technology, healing, tools, defense systems, knowledge that could uplift peaceful worlds. But it will also disrupt every empire based on control." Jack swallowed. "And they'll come for it for us." "Yes," the voice said. "Once the light shines, shadows will chase it." Jack looked at Sonara. Her eyes met his. "I was born to protect this place," she said softly. "But only you can set it free." Jack stared at the glowing console. His hand hovered over it. Once he touched it, there was no going back. He thought of the girl in the cage, the raiders in the dark, the empire that tried to burn them alive. And he remembered one truth. They didn't want heroes. They wanted silence. Jack placed his hand on the console. The chamber exploded with light. Far above the planet, starships in orbit screamed with alerts. The Empire's commander watched in disbelief as his systems glitched. His soldiers' weapons shut down. His scanners failed. A pulse of light swept across the sand and across the stars, and then came the transmission. To the broken, the forgotten, the enslaved. "The gate has opened. Come home." In dozens of systems, hidden tech awakened. Shields powered up around peaceful planets. Starving colonies received fresh energy. Cures for old plagues blinked to life in abandoned stations. Slaves on distant mining worlds watched chains fall open. The hardcore had spoken. The galaxy was changing. Back in the vault, Jack collapsed to his knees. The energy had taken everything from him, yet he felt more alive than ever. Sonara knelt beside him. "You did it," she whispered. Jack gave a weak smile. "We did it." The portal reopened behind them. But this time it didn't lead back to the desert. It led to a sky filled with ships, not warships, but flags, refugees, fighters, wanderers. They had heard the signal and they were coming, not for war, but for hope. 1 week after the vault's awakening, The galaxy felt like it had shifted. Across space, old systems blinked awake. Ancient satellites began transmitting signals in long-dead languages. Star maps updated in real time. Healing stations activated on long-forgotten moons. And everywhere, from tiny desert villages to lost sky cities, they spoke her name. Sinara, the alien girl once sold for nothing. Now she was something more than legend. She was leader of a movement no empire could control. But not everyone celebrated. In the central chamber of the Varnak Empire, alarms screamed. Dozens of admirals gathered around a giant hologram of the sector. The glowing red dot, the vault's location, had become a white-hot pulse. Untouchable. Alive. He activated it, one officer growled. The human, another hissed. No, the grand strategist corrected. The variable. They knew this wasn't just about technology anymore. It was about belief. And belief spreads faster than fire. On the other side of the stars, Sinara stood on the command deck of a salvaged cruiser, an old, rusted thing that once belonged to pirates, now repainted with a simple symbol, a sun with wings. She wore no crown, no armor, just a black cloak and a glowing blue thread wrapped around her wrist. It pulsed with the energy of the vault, a living reminder of who she was and what she carried. Jack stood beside her, slightly awkward, still wearing his same desert jacket. He looked out the window and saw them. Thousands of ships, some tiny, some massive, all heading for one place. Them. This is insane, Jack muttered. We're not soldiers. Sinara didn't look away from the stars. We don't need soldiers. We need truth. He glanced at her. You think truth can win a war? No, she said softly. But it can end one. The transmission went out later that day, broadcast across open channels free for all species to hear. Sinara stood before a camera, eyes calm but firm. I was born a tool, designed to guard secrets, sold for nothing, left in a cage. But a human changed everything. Not because he was strong, because he chose to care. This galaxy doesn't need more rulers, it needs reminders that every life matters, that knowledge belongs to all, and that no one is worthless. The message spread faster than light. People began to rise. Slaves broke free from collars. Smugglers turned into couriers for the revolution. Old warriors laid down weapons and picked up banners. Even members of the Varnak military defected. One by one, they joined the fleet building around Senra and Jack. They called it the Free Orbit. But empires don't fall with words alone. Soon, warships appeared on the edges of the newly freed sectors. The Varnak Empire's dreadnoughts moved with precision, planning to crush the hardcore and anyone protecting it. The final battle was coming. The edge of the Osari Nebula, day of battle, Sinara's fleet hovered in the dark, half made of scrap, half of hope. Jack stood at the front of the command deck, holding a small earpiece. He had been voted Speaker of Humanity, not because he was special, but because he was the first to believe. Fleet coming in, said a pilot. Varnak class, full power, no mercy. Sinara closed her eyes. Are we ready? Jack asked. She smiled faintly. We don't win by matching their strength. We win by breaking their reason to fight. Jack sighed. You really believe in all this? I believe in you, she replied. You didn't pick up a gun when you saw me. You offered a hand. That matters. The silence before the war was heavy. Then, the dreadnoughts arrived. Massive black ships, blocking out the stars. Their weapons charged. But before they fired, the hardcore spoke. Every screen, every ship, every mind connected to the star web heard a single voice. This is not the end. This is your second beginning. A wave of energy burst from the vault, sweeping through every ship. But instead of damage, it brought something else. Memory. The Empire's soldiers saw the horrors they had caused. Cities burned, children crying, chains and cages. Some dropped their weapons, stunned, others screamed. A few fired blindly, but the message was clear. No one could ignore the truth now. The battle still happened, but not like anyone expected. Some Empire ships turned against their own. Others shut down. A few fought to the last, but the free orbit held together, not because of power, because of conviction, because of Sinara. Hours later, silence returned, not just to the nebula, to the galaxy, because the unthinkable had happened. The Varnak dreadnoughts retreated. Sinara stood on the deck staring at the stars. Behind her, voices cheered, refugees hugged, old enemies shook hands, and Jack? He just watched her. She had once been in a cage, sold for scraps. Now she stood like a queen without a throne. Turned to him at last. It's done. Jack raised an eyebrow. Is it? No, she said. It's just started. But now, the galaxy is awake. She reached into her cloak and handed him a small device. A tiny cube glowing faintly. What is this? He asked. A recorder, she said. Everything that happened, every word, every choice. Jack blinked. Why give this to me? Because stories matter. People forget battles, but they remember what inspired them. Jack stared at the cube, then smiled. So, you're trusting a wanderer to tell the story of a revolution? She smiled back. I'm trusting the man who asked a girl in a cage if she was okay. Far across the galaxy, a child in a dusty village picked up a signal. She listened to the story of Sinara and the human, and for the first time in her life she believed. She mattered.